power structures, I don't think they're that difficult to destroy. We just have to stop and not. Do you know what I mean? Like, we just have to say, like,
Like,
well,
you know,
no.
hey Kevin,
Hello.
thank you for joining me and welcome to Coffee Break Culture Change Conversations. So, I would love for you to introduce who you are, what you do, and basically your story.
First of all, thank you for having me and even thinking of me. You know how highly I rate you and regard you. My name is Kevin Morosky, and I'm a creative. I'm probably the best creative in the world, actually.
I agree.
I'm probably like, I'm incredible. You just don't know it. But I'm a creative and a multidisciplinary artist in terms of film, writing, and all forms of kind of visual media, I would say. I'm also a Virgo and from South London and a Jamaican.
Yeah, and you're a recent author.
Yes, well, to a second book. So first book was Notes, and then the most recent came out this year, 2023 March, which is Black Women Always, which I guess serves as a creative manual that has some personal essays in there regards to my creative practice or how I view creative in terms of advertising as well as like an art form. And all of those essays are followed by conversations with Pacific Black women within my life that have helped me, encouraged me, pushed me forward, told me that I was a dickhead when I was being a dickhead, all of those things. So it kind of serves as a creative manual, but also I just want to hold a spotlight on the architects of my life.
And it's such a beautiful book. It actually sits on my bedside
Hey.
table because it's beautiful to look at. I love the aesthetics of it, but it's also a wonderful book to read. And I love the fact that Nana, your co-founder for Pocc, is in there, and just the real love for Black women that is so rare to find. So it's just a wonderful book. Thank you for that. I wanted to talk to you about, because I feel like you're one of the pioneers of culture,
Thank
right?
you.
Definitely a pioneer of culture, especially around that Black British culture, that is so unique to Black Britons and that London, like that Londonness that sometimes I really miss being here in Berlin. And I wanted to ask you about, there's so many changes going on in terms of culture right now. And I wondered if you had some kind of insight as to what you're seeing happening and what your thoughts are around the way that culture is evolving at the moment.
I think that culture is intrinsically linked to the human condition. It's not just like a fun thing that we kind of entertain once in a while. When you talk about culture, I personally believe you're talking about your soul. Like that's how important it is. The reason why I say all of that is this world, as it currently stands, is crumbling. Like, capitalism isn't it anymore. Everybody is like, this is a mad thing. Oh, this is Babylon that we live in. Everyone is over it, and all of these very ancient, traditional Airfinger I'm doing ways of operation. They just don't fit anymore. Everyone feels itchy in these clothes that we've been forced to wear. Everyone feels claustrophobic. And so what you're seeing, I think, in culture is the birth of the new. Do you know what I mean? Like it's ripping itself apart. It's trying to find a new way to exist, and when that happens in such tight confined spaces, you get friction. From friction you get fire. Things start to burn down, things start to implode and explode. And I think that's what's happening in culture at the moment. It all feels, yes, it feels violent, it feels combative, and it feels dire. Do you know how many? I feel like I've been through like 12 apocalypses in the past 2 years. But also, what's that saying? From the darkness will arrive the dawn, or whatever the saying is. You know, that is very true. And that goes hand in hand with, you know, we must destroy in order to rebuild, or there is a death and then there is life, and then there is death and there is life, and we are currently just at the end of that cycle. That's what I think is going on. I think
I love that.
one of the biggest thoughts I have at the moment is that these like Elon Musks and these tyrant men, Trump, etc., they are lucky. It's even less than 100 now, but on average, we live to 100, let's say. And I think to myself, if only we lived to 200, because some of you literally are just in this cycle and you know, okay, these people have passed away, that information hasn't been passed on. And I think I'm just at the age when I'm starting to see not only trends, because as you hit 10, you hit 20, you hit 30, you're like, oh, those were trendy back in the day. And we think that's it. We think it's to do with fashion or sound, you know? But it's also to do with like the power structures and like, oh, that trick isn't really working anymore. Let's just park that for a minute. We're going to try this because this worked in 18 something another. Okay, they've caught on. I think we can go back to this one because no one's really documented that. So I think we're just breaking free. That's what I think is going on in culture at the moment. Yeah.
I want to talk about power structures
Yes.
because actually, this is one of my favorite topics, talking about power dynamics and power structures. Because I think that, like you said, a lot of the power structures that we still have in place are very archaic. And like you mentioned, that what's happening is that a lot of people just feel uncomfortable because what we have in place at the moment no longer fits. And I wanted to know what you thought a little bit more about power structures and, you know, maybe some suggestions on the way that we can address power going forward, what you would like to see.
I think you said something really interesting there. Like, it's not only that things are falling apart and people feel uncomfortable. Some of those people who feel uncomfortable are happy in their prisons. They're happy with the way that things are. I get paid this amount of money. I don't have to do the maths of why I'm being paid this amount of money. They don't want to believe that two things can exist at the same time. To me, I hate capitalism, but that doesn't mean that I'm a muck and that you can book me and not pay me my correct fee for what I'm worth. I don't want to be greedy. I just know what I'm worth, and that's the fair thing to do. That's my guiding light within my life, my North Star. Like, what is fair and what is honourable and what makes sense. And some people don't want to go that extra step to just be like, actually, this is unfair. They're just comfortable in what they're doing, and no tea, no shade towards them. It is what it is. When it comes to power structures, I don't think they're that difficult to destroy. We just have to stop and not. Do you know what I mean? Like, we just have to say, like,
Like,
well,
you know,
no.
we know the problem. It's like, come on.
Just stop spending there, stop doing this, like remove yourself from that, like walk out. Like, I get it. Things will implode in some instances. And I am talking from a space of privilege. I really am. Like, in running Pocc with Nana, that was really born out of the two of us being in the most ridiculous situation in terms of like employment and how that place tried to treat us, and gradually growing the business and being like, well, no, don't want to be like those guys, so we're going to do it this way. And why do we do it this way? And having space to ask and answer those questions of ourselves. Nana becoming a mother and incorporating that into our business plan and being like, cool. So like, what time do you need as a mother? How does it feel to be a working mother? Is that even like a real thing? When she went off to do, she didn't go off to do a degree. It's like a high. What's after a degree? Master?
Masters. Yeah, she did a
Masters.
masters and she got a distinction.
She got a distinction. She went off to do the masters, got a distinction, and there was a moment where she was trying to do POC, the masters, and be a mother. And I was like, it's better that you just do. First of all, go and be a mum, and do the masters. Like I've got POC, and don't worry about anything. Like it's cool, it's fine. And it wasn't a thing of like, well, I'll take lesser pay above. It's like, well, no, you are working. Like when you come back to POC with that knowledge of that masters, where's that knowledge going to go? Like, so it's making those decisions and like sharing power with like Nana as well. I'm not feeling to make a move without Nana and vice versa. I'm not trying to like, well, I've got to have more or what. It's like, that's not the thing for me. The thing for me is like, are you happy and you healthy within your life, Nana? And have you got everything that you need? And I think that is true magic / true power. The things that we call power right now, I don't know, I think power is a thing that can only be quantified as power if you are using it in a way that is humble, inclusive, and you are helping people up. Anything else isn't power. It's actually evil. It's actually being a tyrant. It's actually oppressing people,
Yeah,
right?
it's a bunch of megalomaniacs just,
Right.
fanning their own egos.
Nobody can take anything away from me. No one has any power over me because the action of taking something away from someone isn't power, it's oppression. So when we talk about these structures, to me, I'm always like, we're bigging these structures up too much. Like there are so many more of us than them. So if we all just look after each other and step away, these things no longer exist. And
Yeah.
it's just our memories are short. We got a glimpse of that when the blessed lockdown. I loved lockdown. Not all the death, obviously, but being away from people, great.
Me too.
But when lockdown happened, come and see all of those businesses, pop, 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 like flies, disappeared. When lockdown happened, I remember Soho House running around like blue ass flies, being like, we're a community. Like, it's like, you've never been a community. In all the years that I've been a member, it's never been a community. Behave. But I tell you what didn't suffer and what made leaps and bounds was POC, because we already had a community. It was already there. We already operated in that way. So by the time lockdown came around, it was like, we all need to come together. We were all like, we are already together. What are you
Yeah.
lot talking about? And so the structures that are going on at the moment, I think if we all came together, it's as simple as all coming together and moving as one and removing ego and letting go of all of the points of views and traditions that we hold on to, thinking that, well, that's just the way it is. And, start a question like, why is that the way it is? Who decided that? And you'll probably find more time it's a Western, very, very Western point of view. And it's like, then you're like, oh no, dash it away. And like, why would I do that?
Oh God, the truths that you're speaking, it's like, I completely agree with everything that you're saying, and it feels so honest to me. And there's a couple of things that you said that were so interesting because they just, to me, they're just so forward thinking. And I feel like there's not a lot of people thinking like that. The first thing was around the fact that basically you and Nana had a side gig, and I want to come back to that. But what I found was super interesting was around the fact that incorporating Nana's journey into motherhood into your your values as an organization, as a business. And then when I joined Pocc, I was already a mother, and it was such a different environment to the corporate space that I had come from. And I wanted to talk to you about that because you mentioned how you held space for Nana to be a mother, and to do other things, and she wasn't punished for it. And I remember feeling like when I became a mum, and you leave work, it almost feels like you get punished for it, because you take away your salary. Where I worked, they took away your shares. Your shares don't vest when
Wow.
you're on maternity leave. They don't vest again until like a year after you come back. So it's almost like 2 years. I lost like 2.5 years of my shares vesting because I was on maternity leave. And you also lose psychologically a lot of yourself. So
Yes.
it just feels like you're in this like form of punishment, and everybody's like, oh, this is meant to be the best time of your life, and so you lose so much. And I just thought what you said was so interesting, and I'd love to know what made you feel like a mother still needs to be rewarded, even though she's not physically putting in the same effort as she was putting in before motherhood.
The future. Your little one is the future. Nana's little one is the future. Everything that we are, and in general, I'm talking about, like, that's the thing that we're all heading towards, and we're trying to save the planet, and we're trying to save each other, and all of these things. Like, my time is gone. Like, I'm dead already. Do you know what I mean? At this age, that's not to say that I'm not gonna be like living life and all of the things. I just mean like tomorrow is no longer mine. I'm at an age where it's for the kids. Everything is for the kids. And so me supporting Nana in that way is one less burden for her to interact with her kid and raise her in a way that doesn't leave her feeling abandoned in different ways. Or, I remember like growing up and my mum having 2 or 3 jobs, and in hindsight I get it, and like I understand what was going on now, but even then, to be honest, the re the reason why I can go into like a store now and do quick maths is because literally my mum was like, cool, it's £20, these are all the things that I need, make it work. Do you get it? So like from early having those responsibilities and having to do all of these things, like the trips that myself and Nana take as holidays when we can as a family, my other half, her little one, her other half, etc., and extended friends. And every time the kids are just like, Uncle Kevin, is this another house? Like they're not spoiled. They're just like, why are we at another house? And it's at another. And to me, that's really interesting because it means when you get to a certain age, like there is no her being shy about asking for what she wants, or looking for, or this is what should be happening, or this is what holidays feel like, and this is the way I interact with friends, and like we're all cooking in the kitchen and we sat at the table together. These are her memories. These are her foundations. That she has a Uncle Kevin who's a very Jamaican and stern, but like one of like a very, very fun uncle, but still puts her in her place and like is very silly with her. And then his other half was like a whole white man, but he's Uncle Stephen, and he's just fun. And her life is like full of all of these magical things that when it does come to those structures we're talking about, she's going to be like, no, that's a scam. Why would I do that?
Yeah.
And so to me, like that's the investment. It's not money. Money doesn't sit at the core of how I make decisions and what I do. And because of that, Nana, sorry, I just lost my thoughts. Someone walked in. Money doesn't sit at the core of the decisions that I make. And so because of that, when it came to Nana taking that time and doing these things, it's a no-brainer. It's like, because also like, that's not how energy and karma and goodwill work. Money is the only transactional thing like that. Here's yours, here's mine. Well, I want more, da 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 da. life, energy, culture does not maneuver like that. It doesn't exist like that. It's childish the way that money moves, actually, if you think about
It
it.
is it's very childish, and it's all. I always feel like we get taught about money in the opposite way that we get taught about how to be kind and share and values, etc. And then money comes into the picture, and it's like everything's out the
It's not
window. So
natural.
it's just like a complete opposite, you know. And
Mm,
this is why I think money often ruins very good and close relationships that otherwise wouldn't be ruined if money weren't part of the
100%.
picture. um, I thought that was just so beautiful what you said about basically empowering the the young and removing those structures that we've seen for so long that put us in these kind of like binary roles,
Yeah.
and by allowing them to grow up without them, is that when they're then faced with them, that they're wary because they're like, actually this is not good. And I kind of feel like that's what we're seeing with Gen Z, you know,
Yeah,
is that
yeah,
they
yeah.
come in and they're like, you guys have been doing this? Are
This
you
is
mad?
wild. They're just like, no, no. And there's like, there is a big talking point around Gen Z and the way that they operate. And I love it, like, because it's also crumbling structures as well. I do think there are moments where they just need to chill and really take in the lesson of the thing and be like, not so dismissive sometimes, just like no, and it's like no, like, but let me pass on this knowledge. It goes back to the thing I was saying at the beginning of like being around for 200 years, because it's like you don't have to, after we have this conversation, do what you're feeling to do. That's cool. My point being though, just listen to all of the steps. Like listen to what, like let me pass this on, so like it's a relay at the end of the day. And now please go and burn down the establishment. I'm here for it.
I'm so here for it, and I couldn't be more grateful for this generation coming in because I'm
Listen,
like, we were outnumbered. Millennials were outnumbered because I feel like we got there and we were like, hold on, is this for real? But you know, when we rebelled a little bit, there just weren't enough of us, you know. And Gen Z have come in and they're like, hold on a second. I know you guys see what's happening. The other guys, you know, we can't save them, but you
yeah,
guys, you see it.
yeah.
Come with us. Come, right? Let's burn this down. And so I've got a lot of love and respect for them. I know that in some ways they move mad, but I really do. I really do think that they have the ability, and if see, actually, not they have the ability. We can actually see the fruits of their ability to change things by just refusing to cooperate, and being vocal about things, being very vocal about things. We're going to wrap up soon, but I really wanted to talk to you about diversity in leadership, because we've spoken about all of these things, and really, like, this is like the main topic where it comes from, right? Is that diversity in leadership has been a really big talking point for the last I mean, God, we probably they've probably been talking about this for decades, right? But but it came a huge topic after Black Lives Matter 2020, and also Me Too. You know, we've seen these two things that really started to get into people's consciousness around dynamics of power and the things that we're missing. And I wanted to know what what you think the future of leadership should look like when it comes to inclusion and diversity, and if you have any tips for people who are trying to, you know, incorporate that into their organizations.
I'm laughing because I was gonna say something, but it would mean I would have to read certain people to filth with recent
I was hoping you might
experiences.
say that for one of my questions, so I did a good job then.
But I'm not. I will say that I think the definition of leadership has to change, because a lot of people who are meant to be leaders within their business aren't leaders. They act as dictators. I think leaders, in the same way that we were talking about capitalism and money and what community actually is and why those two things kind of clash and don't go is the same thing. I think a leader isn't necessarily the person that comes in and just tells everybody what to do. It's the person that keeps people on track. It's the person that checks in on people. It's the person that listens. And we as a people of this planet are so power hungry, innately power hungry without even knowing why. It's just a thing to do. You don't
Yeah.
you don't even know why. If I think about what money I'm trying to earn this year and next, it's because I would like to buy land. I would like to build a house big enough to have artist retreat on and things like that. There is a reason for the amount of money that I need to earn to be able to do that. You would never hear me walk around and be like, I just want to be a millionaire. It'd be nice to blah, 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 blah. I have like a clear understanding of what it is that I would like to do. But I think, as a people, we are easily like swayed and influenced. And it's not our fault, it's just tiring. I'm tired too, Do
It's
you
a
know how
game,
many,
right? And
you know how
we're
often
almost we're forced to play it in lots of ways.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So when I say these things, I just want to say out loud, no judgment, I get it. No judgment at all. Don't get in my way, but no judgment.
Yeah, don't ruin my game because
Don't,
I've got to survive. And I think that's the game is that we have to survive, right? And we have to find a way to survive so we get what we want, whatever it is that we want out of it.
exactly.
But yeah, the conversations around power and this need and desire for power to have power over people.
And
Um,
that leaks into the conversation around like leadership and the way that people lead or think they are leading. You're not leading, you're just being a bully. And that ties into the type of leaders or the same old looking leaders again and again and again because they're pandering not to everyone, but just to what their needs are. And then the leaders before them had the same needs. So now it's like a clique of like certain types of people being leaders. So when it comes to leadership and the
sorry.
diversity, when it comes to leadership and the diversity of leadership, it's more for me about I don't care about the word diversity anymore, just from a space of like
Yeah.
2020, you rinsed it out. I don't care for allies. I don't want any allies. Either you are jumping in and you're catching hands with me and catching bruises and all sorts with me, or you're not.
Yeah.
I don't care. Don't tell me you're an ally. Do the work. Like be in there, be in these streets and be like, yeah, I got arrested because I had to box it. Like
It's real
I
talk now. It's real
real
things,
talk.
right?
I have
Yeah.
no time for it. So diversity. I remember in 2020 I was saying all of these things and everyone was just like, I think you're just being a bit angry and a bit bitter. And I'm like, 3 years from now, all of you lot with these shiny DEI jobs, they're going to get rid of them. And I hope it doesn't happen, but I'm saying these things because I'm not saying don't do what you're doing or take it. I'm saying plan for the future and like what is the work that you can do that at least leaves the door open for us to do other things. I don't want them to come along and just chop you, and all of a sudden 4 or 5 years later, we're now back in the same space. Like people, racism always evolves. Like it never dies. It just evolves in a way that it can operate still, but like, not say the problematic things out loud. Like, so the language has changed, but like the behaviors are still the same. I'm still having conversations on projects I'm working on, and the deck comes along and I'm like, there's a lot of white people in this deck, and like they're like, oh no, but we just needed to hit this market. Why do black people not live in Germany? What do you mean? And so I still have to have these conversations and do these things. Nothing's changed.
It's laziness, though. I've
It's lazy.
noticed is that
Yeah.
there's a lot of laziness because I've had the same conversations myself when there's just a bunches of white people, and it's like there's no black people or Asian people or Middle Eastern people like we're the global majority,
Yeah.
and that working with you guys at Pocc really showed me that you know, when people talk about struggling to find talent that's not white, I don't believe it's true.
No.
I believe that they go for what's easy, what's comfortable, what's close to them, and they're too scared to try something
But you
different.
know, another way that they were lazy very quickly is that they also, let me just be real for a second. Black, brown, and global majority people, there are stupid black, brown, and global majority people too,
Yeah,
who are terrible at what they do.
100%.
So my point being is that in one way, yes, they were like lazy, they didn't want to find. And in another way, they were like, you'll do, you'll do, you'll do. And it's like none of these people you selected were qualified. They were just black and brown. They're two different things. You needed to go and find the qualified black and brown people. Because if you did, by the time we got to this point where you're trying to chop people, you wouldn't have been able to do it because they would have seen the thing coming and doing all of the things. You never went and got revolutionary people within your ranks, like really hold your account and do the thing.
That
So
is that is basically you're saying everything so far has been strategic to stop
100%.
really us being able to move forward in the way that we should. Because really, when you think about 2020 and were Me Too, right? That was a perfect opportunity, and it felt like they were making the steps. But I love the fact that you've observed that they didn't really commit to it, and they didn't really find the right talent to do it, you know,
Listen,
and they just, yeah,
there's a
yeah.
handful of those DNI people and those people in those positions that a handful to me that when I see them in real life or in meetings that I'm in and they're in, they're not uncomfortable. The 90, that's 2%, maybe 1%. The 99% of all these other people that have these positions and they started this and that, when I'm in the room, they're as nervous as the other white people in the room. Why? Because they know that they've been doing cartwheels and yes, sir, like all the bits to just make that job work. They're not there to really do the work. So when I come in the room or Nana comes in the room or especially Pocc is in the room, they're like, oh, these guys actually will start a fire. Like these guys are actually about it. And I've just been
Yeah.
pretending because I've just been posting my little bits here and like it looks like I'm doing the thing, but you're not really. So now all of those things are falling apart, you know. And when I say this also, I'm talking about community. So my arms are always open. It's regardless if you made a mistake, like you're trying to survive whatever, I'm always ready to work with anyone in my community again. But now all of these things are falling apart and culture is exploding or imploding in the way that it is because there is nowhere left for the karma that people on for the karma that exists, there's nowhere left for it to hide. So that's why you're feeling, because things haven't been discussed, you haven't returned things that you stole from other lands, like, no, the country isn't racist, and then you get called a coconut. Well, actually, that's a bit out of order. Rare tear tear. Like, there are people in power who have been in power that are telling so many lies, they're forgetting their lies from yesterday or the day before, and it's catching up with them, and there's nowhere for it to go. And so on that very base level of, yesterday you said this, now you're saying that, it's too close. It's too close. There are people like me and you, not, and I don't say that in a hierarchy of like, we're smarter than everyone else. We just read the room and the world in a different way because of the work that we do. You know, in terms of your strategy, in terms of my creative, like I watch the TV in a different way. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, that's the call to action. Okay, but how does a project? Oh, that's quite smart. That's even the way that I watch film. I'm like, okay, so we're probably on page 13. So where's the inciting incident? Oh, okay, there it is. Blah 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 blah. We see the world in a different way because of the things, the work that we do day to day, right? So I just want to make that clear. There's no hierarchy. We just receive information in a different way. All of that to say is that when the lies are catching up with you less than 24 hours and we're all on our phones, even for people who are not involved in the creative industry, now it starts to be like, hold on a minute, but yesterday you said we were getting this, now we're getting that. When the information is a lot more can't think of the word, but receivable. That is to say, wait a minute, 3 months ago my bread was 52 pence and now it's £2 something another. These are very physical manifestations of the evil that is like going on, of the oppression that is going on, and it's right in people's faces that they can understand it in a more literal bite-sized kind of way. And yeah, I just went off on one, I don't even know, but maybe that's the time to wrap up.
No, I loved it. I want to say thank you so much, and that I wish that we could start fires every day.
Listen.
And I wish that we could really make a change and impact some of these structures that we know are really damaging, right? And that we can, it's like, I feel like our types of brains can really see what the future could be, you know, where there's just so much more equity amongst people, and this desire for material things that we just don't need in that way, you know, we would be a lot happier. But I think the fight goes on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
Thank you so much, Kevin. As always, lots of love.
Thank you.